At 2:42 in the morning, 15 miles off the coast of Bandar Abbas, an American BGM-109 Tomahawk cruise missile drops low over the water, skimming just 10 feet above the waves to slip beneath Iranian radar. It should be invisible. It isn't. 5 miles ahead, a matte black Iranian picket boat waits in silence. As the Tomahawk streaks past, a high-speed infrared sensor aboard the boat catches a split-second flash of heat from the missile's engine. That's all it takes. The boat fires off a digital alert to shore. Target confirmed. On the cliffs above the port, an Iranian Bavar-373 missile battery crunches the numbers and launches 2 Syad-4 interceptors, racing toward a kill box where the American missile will be, guaranteed, in 15 seconds. And here's the cruel part. The Tomahawk can't fight back. It flies in a straight line, with no radar warning receiver and no way to dodge. A $2 million weapon flies straight into the trap and is vaporized. But the Iranians aren't celebrating. They're already swinging their high-power radar south, out 150 miles into the Gulf, hunting something much bigger: the gas station in the sky. By 3:05 a.m., 50 miles off the coast, alarms are shrieking inside a KC-135 Stratotanker. 4 FA-18 Super Hornets are tethered to it by long fuel hoses, drinking in succession to stay airborne and in the fight. The tanker pilot checks the screen. 2 Syad-4 missiles are diving in from the stratosphere. There's no time to think it through, only react. The pilot yanks the yoke hard left and dives, trying to put as much sky as possible between the tanker and the incoming missiles. At the same instant, the fighter pilots slam the emergency disconnect. The dry brake valves snap shut in an instant, releasing only a faint, freezing mist of fuel as the refueling probes tear free from the jets. The Hornets light their afterburners and haul into a 7G turn, violent enough to drain the blood from a pilot's skull. One of the missiles never even needs to hit a jet. It detonates 100 feet above the tanker, and the warhead turns the night sky into a strobe light. For 5 full seconds, the American pilots are flying blind. They dive for the deck, trying to get under the debris field, and for a moment, it looks like they've made it. Except the Iranians have already moved on to something far harder to detect. They've switched on a passive detection system, no active radar pulse at all, just a receiver quietly listening to ordinary radio, television, and cell signals already filling the air. Think of a spider sitting motionless in its web. It's blind, but it doesn't need to see. It only needs to feel the vibration when something touches the silk. Out here, the American jets are the flies, and the entire Iranian coastline has become the web. Then the ocean itself opens fire. Disguised as an ordinary 400-foot merchant freighter, a hidden Khordad missile system has been riding along the whole time. As the American jets roar overhead, a tarp blows off the deck and a launcher fires. The lead jet never has a chance. The missile is moving at 3,000 miles an hour, and because it came from directly underneath, the pilot's warning system gives him barely half a second of notice. The Super Hornet takes the hit in the belly, loses all propulsion, its flight computers die, and 30 tons of American engineering goes skipping across the water like a thrown stone. 1 jet down, 3 left. And the Iranians aren't finished. Now they're firing at empty air just ahead of the surviving jets. Fragmentation warheads detonate a mile out, scattering 10,000 tungsten pellets into the flight path. At the speed these jets are traveling, catching even one of those pellets is like taking a tank shell to the fuselage. If a single pellet gets sucked into an engine intake, the turbine blades shatter like glass. The pilots are boxed in, fire behind them from the tanker, hidden ships below, and now a wall of metal ahead. Meanwhile, from concrete bunkers carved into the cliffs, 60 Iranian Zulfikar fast attack boats come pouring out. The American destroyer responds by activating its Phalanx close-in weapon system, the ship's absolute last line of defense, a wall of lead meant to shred anything that gets close. It rips apart the first 3 boats instantly. But those boats were empty. They were never meant to fight. They were bait, sent purely to burn through the destroyer's ammunition. And the Phalanx has a hard limit: 1,550 rounds. At full rate of fire, it runs dry in under 20 seconds. The gun falls silent. It needs to reload, and reloading takes time it doesn't have. The next wave of 10 Zulfikar boats isn't carrying heavy weapons at all. A boat that's small can't fire a 20-foot cruise missile at close range. Instead, they're spotters, relaying the destroyer's exact coordinates back to shore over high-speed data links. From those same coastal cliffs, truck-mounted launchers fire 6 Nor anti-ship missiles. Launched from land, they have all the open water they need to accelerate to 600 miles an hour and let their radar seekers lock on, timed to arrive at the precise moment the American Gatling gun sits empty. Alarms tear through every deck of the ship. The crew opens up with the Mark 38 25mm guns and knocks down 4 of the incoming missiles. The 5th misses and slaps into the water. The 6th finds its mark, slamming into the destroyer just above the waterline. Its delayed action fuse lets it punch through 2 inches of steel armor, travel 15 feet into the galley, and then detonate, tearing a 20-foot hole in the hull. The ship isn't sinking, but the shockwave rips through the frame, and the main air defense radar, the one protecting those jets overhead, flickers and dies completely. Fires are burning on the aft deck, while the surviving Super Hornets scream through the darkness above. And the American commander knows there's only one option left. Silence the Iranian radars now, or watch the entire strike package get picked apart one aircraft at a time. The order comes down for a suppression strike. The Super Hornets roll in and fire a volley of AGM-88 HARM missiles. At the same moment, 2 American submarines, lurking in the deep water of the Gulf of Oman, launch 10 Tomahawks of their own. The logic is simple. Blind the eyes of the Iranian defense network, and the whole gauntlet collapses. 30 seconds from the coast, everything changes. The Iranian radar screens don't go dark, they get brighter. It turns out the Iranians deployed bait emitters, dumb loudspeaker rigs mimicking the electronic fingerprint of an S-300 battery. The HARM missiles, hunting for a real radar signal, veer off course, confused. And the Iranians aren't done escalating. They switch on their most dangerous invisible weapon yet, a GPS spoofing attack. Every American ship, jet, and missile depends on satellites to know exactly where it is on the planet. A massive spoofing tower hidden in the mountains behind the port begins broadcasting a fake GPS signal 10 times stronger than the real one coming down from orbit. Instantly, the destroyer's navigation computer believes the ship has been teleported 20 miles inland. The Tomahawks in flight start trying to steer around mountains that don't exist. The American fleet can no longer see the enemy, and now it doesn't even know where it is. That's the moment the whole operation tips from disaster into nightmare. An American MQ-9 Reaper drone, circling at 15,000 feet and quietly recording the entire battle, suddenly loses its satellite link. The Iranians have jammed the connection to its operators sitting in Nevada. Cut off from its handlers, the drone falls back on the fake GPS signal, and the Iranians have rigged that signal so the drone believes its home base sits exactly where the American destroyer is currently floating. The Reaper, carrying 4 Hellfire missiles under its wings, noses over and begins its final approach. The Americans are now being hunted by their own aircraft, a 200-mile-an-hour suicide spear closing on a ship that can't see it coming because its main radar is still dead from the missile strike. The crew has no choice but to go fully manual. They fire the phalanx one more time, and this burst of tungsten catches the Reaper in the fuel tank. The Americans have just shot down their own eyes in the sky. Watching all of this unfold, the Iranian commanders sense the kill and start bringing their heaviest batteries online to finish the destroyer for good. And that's when the Ghost shows up. Across every Iranian radar screen, from the coastline to the mountains, an enormous signal erupts out of nowhere, carrying the exact electronic signature of a B-1B Lancer, a strategic bomber screaming in at 900 miles an hour. To the Iranian operators, it looks like a giant 4-engine monster bearing down on them. They panic. Every remaining system lights up. S-300 batteries, the Bavar-373 network, everything. 4 Syad-4 missiles roar skyward, lock onto the massive signal, and score a direct hit. The radar return vanishes in a flash. There's just one problem. There's no wreckage. there was never a bomber. What the Iranians actually shot down was an ADM-160 MALD, a miniature air-launched decoy fired earlier by the surviving Super Hornets before they turned back for home. The MALD's whole purpose is to record and replay the exact radar signature of a large aircraft. It's a digital hallucination, and the Iranians just burned some of their most expensive, most limited missiles, shooting down a recording. Worse still, by lighting up their heaviest engagement radars to chase that ghost, they've just handed the Americans a complete map of every battery on the coast, which is exactly when the real attack begins. Sitting silently in deep water outside the strait, well beyond the reach of the spoofing towers, is the USS Florida, an Ohio-class submarine and the only vessel in the American fleet capable of carrying 154 cruise missiles at once. Her hatches fly open, and 40 Tomahawks blast free, using high-pressure air, splitting into two groups the moment they clear the water. The first group goes straight for the spine of the base, the fuel storage tanks and pumping stations feeding the harbor. One missile slams into the main tank at the base of the pier. The port isn't destroyed, but it's crippled. No ship can dock, and no ship can refuel. The second group carries a different kind of warhead entirely, the D model. Instead of one large blast, these Tomahawks split open mid-flight as they pass over the missile sites, releasing 166 small submunitions, tiny bomblets that rain down across an area roughly the size of 3 football fields. They shred truck tires, punch through the thin metal skins of radar dishes, and ignite exposed rocket fuel. One by one, the S-300 radars go dark. The passive detection towers are smashed, and the spoofing tower at the heart of the port takes a direct hit and comes down like a felled tree. Almost instantly, the American destroyer's navigation clears. GPS returns to normal. The Iranians realize in that moment that the port is already lost, and they try one last desperate move, scuttling a giant tanker in the harbor entrance on purpose, hoping to block the channel and deny the Americans use of the port for months. But the Americans are faster. One final Tomahawk strikes the tanker's steering gear at the stern. With no way to turn, but engines still running at full power, the ship drifts out of control and plows straight into Iran's own inner docks, crushing 20 of their fast attack boats against the sea wall before finally grinding to a stop. By sunrise, Bandar Abbas isn't a naval base anymore. It's a junkyard. And yet, as the smoke clears, one uncomfortable truth remains. The Iranians were dangerous, they were clever, and they came within 30 seconds of pulling off something extraordinary. That's the part that should keep anyone up at night. Because behind closed doors, there's a question the US Navy still hasn't fully answered. What if the Iranian radar operators had simply waited 30 more seconds? That fake bomber signal was a gamble. It only worked because the Iranians were desperate for a trophy kill and lit up their most powerful radars to chase it. If they'd stayed dark instead, let the bomber pass unchallenged, and kept their real batteries hidden, the actual strike from the USS Florida would have been flying in completely blind. The Tomahawks wouldn't have known where the bunkers were. They would have been nothing for the submunitions to hit. In modern naval warfare, it's often the side that reacts first that dies first. Iran reacted because they thought they saw a prize worth taking, and that hunger is what cost them their most important port. It raises a question worth sitting with. In the next confrontation like this, will the other side be that eager to strike? Or will they learn to sit in the dark, patient, waiting until the moment their opponent is too close to turn back? Because if there's one lesson buried in this near disaster, it's that the next time, silence itself might be the deadliest weapon on the board.